Hi folks, welcome to Edge Parts and Performance Methanol Madness, and no racing at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway on the weekend, but we did follow some of the racing down in Riverside Speedway in Invercargill. Some of our open wheel classes travelled down there. Welcome back to the show, AJ. A week off for you, mate?
Yeah, I was a bit crook-y, but one hell of a lot better, and so looking forward to this weekend's racing.
Yeah, it's certainly a big dose of sprint cars again at the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway. Welcome to the show, Louise. Good to see you again. What's been happening in your world the last week?
We've had a pretty quiet week with no Speedway, but I'm looking forward to getting back after it in April. Good
stuff. Well, look, as usual, let's get into Crash of the Week. This is brought to us by KH Fabrication. You break it, he'll fix it. And we're looking at Riverside Speedway here, and of course we've got Shannara Stronach, AJ, with Joel Myres Jr. doing some pretty tidy laps here, and all of a sudden things go haywire for Joel Myres Jr.
Yeah, to be quite honest, he was right on the edge the lap beforehand. The track had been impacted on by the weather. She was a bit rough and ready in some places, and yeah, I think he just went in a wee bit too hot, and that's all she wrote, really.
Yeah, it looked like he just tried to brake a wee bit just going into that corner. Couldn't quite get his speed down, and that was a very violent nose-to-tail roll. And certainly that car wasn't capable of racing again. But for those that were down there, they'll know that Daniel Anderson stepped out of his car and gave Joel the drive. And he had some pretty good results, which we'll talk about later on. Just watching that for the third time, some pretty big end over ends there, and I'm sure Edge Parts and Performance are going to be pretty busy bringing in some parts there. Well, a spectacular crash there for Joel Myres Jr. And AJ, you made the big trek down to Invercargill. What was the day like for you?
Oh, it was cold. You know, you're one step away from the Antarctic down there. It was raining early in the morning, and you can tell with the video footage that the track took the brunt of that. There's a bit of cowboy up that was needed because, boy, she was rough and ready. Just before the feature, they went out and attacked it with the grader, and they had one heck of a racy track for the feature race. The early going, it was certainly a bit rough, and it was one of those deals, yeah, a bit rough, cowboy stuff. Into town comes Dave Kerr in the old Ford, new track record.
Wow.
And I thought Dave Kerr was a real superstar the other day. He may have had the front starts in those heat races, but the foot was right up it.
Well, we're always used to that with Dave when he was driving the Midget, and we'll review their race for the War of the Wings a little later in the show. Well, it's time to move on to the Pro Ben review. With no racing at Ruapuna Speedway, we thought we'd take a look at Riverside Speedway. And AJ, I know you were down there. Did you get a chance to look at the modified sprints?
Yeah, I did. A really competitive field too, and Jaden Fraser, you know, that guy's just running so well this season. And he was a dominant force. Final round of their series, and yeah, he's a class act, Jaden Fraser. Love to see him in something bigger.
He's been very dominant here at Ruapuna, and clearly he's the favourite modified sprint driver in Invercargill. Second in their feature race was Harry McIntyre. Good to see him get up. And Craig Cox. Well, we know what Coxie's like. He's a great driver, and he took out third in the feature race. Quick note on Shane Cornelius, the 92C car registered from Christchurch, took another unfortunate tumble. That's a number of crashes that Shane's taken recently, and it'll be a very frustrating ride back to Christchurch for those guys. And the next class we'll look at Invercargill is the V6 wingless sprints. How did it play out for you, AJ?
Yeah, 18 odd cars there, one Christchurch driver and Kane Jemmett. It was a Scott Gordon Memorial, and it was an event with some real passion in it and really competitive racing. Those guys got stuck into it. Luke Shearing, it was he was the dominant force, but what we've seen him this year, no surprise.
Yeah, second Brian Ellison, and third was Michael Livingston, the local V6 driver from Invercargill. Well, the real feature class that was racing was the sprint cars. It was another round of the War of the Wings, and it was a pretty spectacular day there, AJ, as you alluded to before. Lots of highlights and lots of drama playing out. How did you see it?
Yeah, exactly. There was a few of the big boys didn't make the big trip down there. The rain did impact on the track. They did a whale of a job getting the racetrack, even in some sort of condition, to put on the show. Yeah. Everyone threw everything at it. Heat race, you know, I actually think the number of highlights, there was a lot of them, but they were sort of little micro ones. You had Oscar Harcourt for the first time setting quick time in the time trials. You had Dave Kerr winning a heat race. You had Shannara Stronach winning a heat race, and Sleeman Sam O'Callaghan came back from what's been a pretty difficult season for the Freeman team, and he won a heat race as well. But I think all eyes right throughout the day were going to be on that Joel Myres Jacob Mcintyre battle in the feature race. As the War of the Wings format works out, they do the draw for the dash, and you had Sam O'Callaghan was like the top qualifier from the heats. He drew 6, and so it was always going to be a tough ask. But then when they put the grader out there, it changed the whole dynamic of the race meeting. And so the feature race, it was a ripper of a race, and there was just a lot of action right through the field.
Well, a couple of notes there. I think you also mentioned Dave Kerr got the track record down there. So as you said before, cowboying up and really managing that track as good as anybody. We did see Joel Myres Jr. crash out before in our crash of the week. And wouldn't you know it, it was Daniel Anderson stepped aside, put Joel Myres into his sprint car. Starting from the back, he made his way right to the front. It was a very impressive feature win, which kept Joel Myres Jr. right at the top end of the War of the Wings series. Not many of us thought he could get up from there, particularly in a different car, and particularly starting all the way back. But impressive stuff for Joel Myres Jr. Well, the other drama to play out in the War of the Wings was Jacob Mcintyre, Invercargill's best sprint car driver by a long way. Jacob was actually leading the War of the Wings series going into the event, and Jacob's actually joined us on the show. Jacob, wasn't the best weekend for you guys, but you must be pleased with how you're driving this year. You're certainly staying at the pointy end of the War of the Wings series.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty bad weekend for us. We had a quick car the whole weekend, but we got tangled up in the feature. Not a biggie. We have a car there to do it. So, but yeah, we're pretty happy with how we're going this season. We knuckling down. So yeah.
We might cover that crash in a moment, but I've really noticed a big driving style change in you. The first year when you were a rookie, you certainly weren't scared of it, and we just remember you pulling wheelies down the back straights all the time. Tell me what the approach has been this year. I think you did say you wanted to calm the style down a wee bit. What have you changed?
I've calmed down a little bit. Probably staying off the loud pedal a little bit. Just being a bit more mature in my driving and trying to finish more races so we can stay up there in the points.
Well, Jake, you got involved with an incident in the feature race which really put pay to your chances. We might just have a quick look at that now, and can you tell us what was happening from your perspective?
Had a pretty good entry speed compared to a junior. Real good exit speed, and then tried putting the run on him down the main straight, but he came up a little bit and I was already too far committed, so I just kept it there and put the foot up it and hoped you'd see me, but it is what it is. Yeah,
it was one of those racing deals. I think you'd probably agree that it's very hard to tell exactly where drivers are. The good thing, Jacob, I think would be that the car didn't really tumble violently and destroy itself. I mean, it was probably as soft as that crash could be in the end, but I see you knocked off a front wheel there and probably a few shocks and things. How bad was the damage?
Oh, there was a bit of damage. We did the front end, obviously. We put a tweak in the chassis. We'll fix that now. Top wing, front wing. There's a bit of damage, but it's fixed now and ready to do another trip.
Okay, well, you're probably quite excited about being at the top end of the War of the Wings series, mate. What's the plan for Saturday night? How are you going to approach it?
We're just going to come up here and we'll just keep trying to tick up some pretty good points in the heats and hopefully make the dash, make our life a little bit easier during the feature, and then we'll see. Those last 10 laps might get pretty hot. Hopefully the car comes on and we can really start firing some shots.
Okay, and I know your dad sponsors you, BMAC Sheet Metals. Who are some of the other sponsors that look after you?
We got Safety First, NZ, Southern Bolts and Fasteners, Stainless Products, South Island, and Highside Construction.
Good stuff. All right, Jake, look, sorry, mate, you were going to say?
And also Sign Solutions.
Sign Solutions, yeah, good stuff. You've got a great set of sponsors with you, mate, and it's really good to get your insights into sprint car racing. We'll see you on Saturday night. AJ, he's a young superstar in the making, this Jacob Mcintyre. We remember him a couple of seasons ago. We thought, hang on, this guy's got something, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's fast, but as we made a comment earlier this year, it was as if he had to just slow down a little to go faster, take some of that edge off his racing. What I really liked about that conversation, they're working out what they need to do, get themselves into the dash, make the life a little bit easier for them. And when you start looking at the guys that dominate the Hydrolink War of the Wings, that's what it's all about. There's no sense just blowing it all in the first 2 or 3 races. Matthew Anderson, who's sitting there in third and just 35 points behind Myres and Jacob, he just keeps on finishing, and that's what it's about. Keep the nose clean and the rewards will come your way.
We might just have a quick look at that table that we've got here, and of course it is Joel Myres Jr. and Jacob Mcintyre sharing first place. And as you said, AJ, Matt Anderson just accumulating points of 70, 70, 60, 80, 85, gives them a total of 365. Now we know Joel Myres missed an event. He went back to California. But look at that, 4 100s there. You can tell he's a very dominant performer in the Hydrolink War of the Wings. And with so much money up for grabs, this is really worth racing for, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And, another guy that we shouldn't write off totally because he just keeps finishing is David Kerr. It's sort of like 100 points sounds like a lot. That's what you get for a win. But all you need is to have a total fail in the feature race. And, guys can start chipping away. They've still got 2 more shots at this. Ruapuna this Saturday night, Good Friday at Cromwell. And so some guys are going to really back themselves. The number of real contenders now, you've sort of like got a handful because Caleb Bourne's not going to be down at Cromwell at Easter. Jaden Dodge isn't going to be at Ruapuna this Saturday night. So you pretty much start moving them to one side.
Well, the other big event that's going on in New Zealand this weekend is the New Zealand Midget Car Championship. And AJ, that was cancelled initially or postponed. What's the situation with it now?
Yeah, it's been rescheduled to this weekend, and it's knocked the numbers around a little. And it's just a tough deal this time of the year to get these national championships in.
It is. And Louise, you got some info on the South Island contenders?
Yeah, unfortunately, as AJ pointed out, with a couple of the guys having to drop out with the new date change, and of course the boats are also playing up again. So it's been hard to get into the North Island for racing, unfortunately. So our numbers have dropped a little bit.
Yeah, it just goes to show how lucky we were to get all our midget car drivers down at our last meeting. A couple of interesting facts. Michael Kendall is having a crack at the New Zealand midget car title. When was the last time he was racing?
Oh, well, he's been racing over in Australia a lot, but he's come back and he's running the Terminator team, so they know what they're doing, those guys.
He's an ex-New Zealand champion, I think,
he's got a few New Zealand championships under the belt, and he's the sort of guy that Stratford is a bit of a levelling sort of racetrack, and I would actually put a sly $10 on him to do that, because Michael Kendall's one hell of a good racer.
Well, I'm guessing Michael Pickens, Brad Mose and Aaron Hodgson would most likely be the favourites. We think Hayden Williams is returning as the current NZ1 midget champion. So certainly if they can get some racing in at Stratford, it should be a mighty time. Well, look, we've got on the show joining us now is Joel Myres Jr. And good to see you back here, Joel. You had a hell of a weekend at Riverside, mate, but we'll get to the race in a second or two. But what brings you all the way back to New Zealand? You disappeared for a couple of weeks there.
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks right before I left, Daniel had called me in his office and asked if I wanted to come back. And we kind of just worked things out around some bigger races I wanted to run back at home this last month. Unfortunately, we got canceled, and all about, I think it was 8 races we were supposed to run. So that kind of sucked, but definitely was glad to get back here and get to Riverside.
Well, that's a hell of a rain out, mate, travelling one side of the world to come all the way back to New Zealand. But certainly the racing in the weekend was quite impressive from your side of things, but you did have that unfortunate accident. Can you tell us how it all played out for you?
Yeah, with all the rain, the track prep guys had a handful on them, and luckily we were able to even get it in, I thought. And so it just kind of brought us up rough track conditions, and in the heat race I was just trying to get as many points as possible and try and find a way around the 21 car, and just lifted too much on my entry and didn't have enough entry speed to get through the holes like I wanted to, and it biked up and we went for a big ride.
Yeah, it certainly was a big ride, and there's a wee clip we've got of you walking back to the pits, and I want to ask you, mate, what's it like talking to Daniel after that?
Pretty nice compared to some car owners. He just was making sure I was all right, and just trying to go from there and figure out what was wrong with the car.
Well, it was impressive that he jumped out of his car. He gave you his car to drive, and I'm sure you had to maybe fit your seat or make some adjustments. But it was stunning, that drive to get you from 11th right through to first. What was going through your mind? Were the gaps just opening up for you?
Yeah, for sure. Can't thank Daniel enough for giving me his car. Him and Brad worked hard switching seats over and everything else. It's something we can do at home a lot. Is if you have a misfortunate event in the heat race, you can pull down a spare car and run it for the rest of the night. You just have to start in the back of whatever race. And I didn't really know there was an option here until Daniel brought it up, and Freeman and all of them let us do it. So can't thank them all enough for letting us do it and keep putting on a show for the fans. And it was definitely very hard to start in the back because we started in the back of the heat race and worked the way up to second. Unfortunately, they didn't give us enough points for the dash for our first DNF. And then main event, we started back there and just kind of had to work our way through it. The car felt pretty good. Just kind of threw some stuff at it. I didn't really have much time to set it up. So just kind of threw some things at it. And Willie built some tough shocks that made it through the first flip and threw those shocks back on and just kind of went for it.
Well, what's it like being a 16-year-old? You've got plenty of talent, we know that, but you've just destroyed a car. Your car owner's giving you his car. I mean, anything going through the mind, or do you clear that out and just go for it?
You can't really just have things going through your mind like that when you're racing, I guess. Just can't, you got to go for the win. So you got to just kind of focus on that. And obviously didn't want to wreck a second car and have to build two cars this week. But, yeah.
Well, look, I know the guys at Edge Parts and Performance have been shipping parts down to you as quick as you were ordering them, and we hope that you can get the car up and running for this Saturday night. How's it looking for you guys at this stage?
Pretty good. Just got the car fired up a little bit ago. Just trying to make everything as nice as I can and build it kind of the way I want. Luckily, Daniel's allowing me to do that, and should be loaded up tonight and heading to Christchurch tomorrow.
We'll get you just to hold there for a second, Joel, but how good's Daniel Anderson at the moment, allowing things like this to happen and getting a new car put together for Joel Myres Jr.?
Look, Dan is just such a decent ambassador. He's a decent man for starters. And I was standing right beside him when Joel took the checkered flag, and you would think that Dan himself had crossed the line and won that feature race. And, the fact that they're a relatively small team, there's only a couple of three guys that do all the hard work, but it also showed what the sprint car War of the Wings or the sprint car fraternity in the South Island are like, because everyone was pitching in to try and make sure that, if anything was needed, it was there. And, it's a real testament to the class.
Well, we've certainly been lucky with Daniel Anderson bringing over these young talents from America. Now, we've got Joel still on the line. Joel, tell us, what's the goal for you guys, and when does your season end?
Going for the War of the Wings Championship is the main reason he brought me back here. So definitely chase after that and then run Salute to Giddy right before I head home and hit a big season back at home.
And what's the vibe been like when you went home, mate? I'm sure there's plenty of people watching your progress over here. I'm sure they all seen you win the first four events of the War of the Wings. How was it when you got back?
Pretty good. Me and Tanner got back on a Monday and got straight to work on building our own race cars back at home, just trying to get everything knocked out because we were supposed to be racing. Obviously, we got rained out a lot, so unfortunately we weren't able to race, so everything's sitting kind of at a stand still until I get back home.
Good stuff, Joel. Look, thanks for joining the show again. You've been a regular contributor to the show, and we've always enjoyed what you've got to say about sprint car racing. After the break, we catch up with one of the most promising dirt track drivers registered at Ruapuna Speedway. Triple X chassis are now in stock at Edge Parts and Performance. These outstanding sprint car chassis are winners with the World of Outlaws, proven in Pennsylvania, and raced on the bull rings of New Zealand. Edge Parts and Performance, proud stockists of racer-inspired, race-proven XXX chassis and race components. Get ready for a night of high-speed action as the high-drilling War of the Wings Sprint Car Series comes to the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge, Ruapuna Speedway this Saturday night. Brought to you by Shearing's Earth Moving. Witness the Californian flyer Joel Myres Jr. and series co-leader Jacob Mcintyre battle it out on the track for the top spot. With lightning-fast cars, heart-pumping races and adrenaline-fueled moments, this is an event you won't want to miss. Buy your tickets now at ruapunaspeedway.co.nz and experience the thrill of the high-drilling War of the Wings Sprint Car Series live. The team at Edge Parts and Performance have got safety covered. They're proud stockists of Simpson safety products, helmets, head and neck restraints, harnesses, racing suits, gloves, shoes and more. Simpson safety products provide an unparalleled level of comfort, performance and protection. Come and check out their new range of Simpson suits, lightweight 2-layer SFI approved suits that offers flexibility and functionality all in one. They've also got the Red Devil carbon fibre lightweight racing helmet in stock. Well folks, if you've been watching quarter midget racing, it's hard not to see the 23C car of Jack Brownlees taking out feature race after feature race. And what we thought we might do is just profile Jack a little bit, and Jack actually joins the show. Welcome Jack. You've had a heck of a year with the quarter midgets. Having said all that, you did have a bit of a tumble out at the last meeting at Ruapuna. Can you tell us what you remember about going around the wall?
My thoughts were I wanted to go around the outside, try to get up to the front pack, and someone must have hit Tom, hit a wet patch. Tom must have slid up to me, and I went round and Tom hit me. I went up the wall, and I was hoping I didn't flip. So always what Dad tells me is the wall's only there to keep me in, so just keep the foot off and hope for the best.
Well, it was spectacular to watch, and we did see it on the show a week later and wondered how things played out. But talking with your parents, it did cause a bit of damage and you couldn't get the car up and racing the next day on Saturday, which was disappointing. But you did actually go out to Ellesmere on Sunday. Tell us how that all played out.
Yeah, so we did a quick motor change and at the track at Ellesmere, and so we did that and it worked, so we were just happy out how it came.
And you eventually took out the North-South Challenge, being the feature winner there, which was pretty impressive stuff. So, but I wanted to go back to your early days, Jack, because we've known you as a racer for about 5 years now, and you were just 8 years old when you started in a quarter midget. Can you tell us what your first experience was like, and what were your thoughts when you first got into the car?
I was very excited just to get to meet new people and new people racing and all the good drivers around New Zealand, and I was hoping I'd go well for my career.
And how did you learn to drive good lines, let's say? I know that when we watch you closely, you're very precise on where you enter the corner, and you seem to have really good track craft. You seem to know when the other driver's going to manoeuvre himself, and you're ready to pounce always.
We went out one weekend out to Ellesmere and chucked out a few cones and just did lines around there, and that's how I learned how to race my lines and get under people and around people.
Well, you make it sound easy, mate, but we know it's not, because plenty of people try the quarter midgets and they struggle away at times. They always get better for sure, but there's certainly a big career ahead for you. Now, you did have a wee taste in Australia recently. You were driving a 500cc, like a modified sprint. What was it called?
There was Formula 500.
And you had a bit of engine reliability issues, I should say. But by the sounds of things, you made a pretty good impression over there. Do you think you'd ever get back to Australia?
We're hoping to, but we just couldn't thank the Bateman family enough for giving me the opportunity to go over and race. So I went all right. Hope I did well, and hopefully we can go back over and have another crack at it.
Well, the purpose of talking to you is to just reveal a bit about you to all your fans. You've got plenty of people that really watch you at Ruapuna, and we see you do those great interviews on the victory lane, mate. Who taught you how to do the presentation side as well as you do?
I actually didn't get taught. It's just I'm not a shy person, and just talk when I have to.
Good stuff, mate. Well, look, what's the plan for you? You've indicated a few things to me over the weeks, but can you tell everyone officially what you hope to do in the future? I mean, you're only 13 now, or coming up 13, I think it is. What's the plans for Jack Brownlees?
We're hoping to go into a midget, and so TQ coming up in another 2 years, and hoping to jump into a midget and do my future from there.
Well, you had Keanu Ware staying at your place recently. That was quite an experience, because Keanu is probably the same as you in the North Island now. I think he seems to dominate most of the feature races. What was it like racing Keanu?
It was pretty fun, like with good mates, and it was just a good experience. Good to have like good guys down here and race against them, and pretty cool when you're on the front row for an Auckland driver.
And I know your family are totally into it. Dad's a big Speedway guy, and Mum's the quarter midget rep, and even your little sister races as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's loving it.
Well, look, thanks for joining the show there, Jack. We just wanted to let people know a wee bit more about you, and certainly we see you racing around Ruapuna all the time, often taking the feature races, but we know it doesn't come easily. You've got to keep working hard, and you've got some good competitors that are racing against you these days. AJ, he's been pretty good for a long time, hasn't he?
Oh, he has, and every time someone throws down the big challenge, Jack meets the challenge, and then he keeps raising the bar, and it's actually really good for the whole class, because you start looking at some of the other kids that they get close, they may get their nose in front, then Jack just sort of takes the momentum back off them, and it's dog eat dog. They just keep chasing each other, don't they?
It's definitely a good class. We've talked about it before. People like Liam McCoubrey, Matthew Leversedge, and a few others have come through the quarter midgets. Jack Lowe's another one that comes to mind, and it's certainly the breeding ground for these young kids getting their teeth into open wheel racing. Well, it's time to move on to the Pro Bend preview of our next meeting at Ruapuna, and that will be the Hydrolink War of the Wings again. AJ, that's a great series, and it's starting to come to its conclusion. What can people look out for?
I think the weather's going to be a big factor in what the track is like, and we heard that Jacob Mcintyre said earlier that he doesn't really like the slicker tracks. I'm picking that the track's going to be fast. It's going to be a little bit bumpy. Time to cowboy up in the sprint car class. The big battle will obviously be between Joel Myres and Jacob Mcintyre. See how they go through the heat races. But I have a very healthy regard for Matthew Anderson, just to keep on chipping away at those points. If either of the big fellas fall, I would say Anderson's going to be sitting there waiting. Yeah,
exactly. Certainly just doing his job quite nicely in behind there and accumulating the points. For me, Jacob Mcintyre, I'd like to see Jacob actually get a really good result, and it all fell apart from it in Invercargill, and he's disappointed. We clearly could see that on the interview. But he's the sort of guy that if he can really get this one sorted at the next round and then put himself in a good spot on the last round, who knows? As you said, AJ, if someone knocks themselves out in the War of the Wings, then the points change fairly rapidly. There's a 50-point swing if you miss out, let's say. And it'll be interesting to see if Jacob Mcintyre can come up to what's required to see if he can win the War of the Wings series. Well, there are some other classes racing on Saturday night. Louise, we've got the quarter midgets. How are your numbers looking, and what are they racing for?
Yeah, we're looking pretty good for quarter midget numbers. Nelson's also racing, so it's kind of double duty for the class in the South Island. So we're down to about 16 cars, which is still fantastic numbers on the grand scheme of things. So we're looking pretty good.
It's staggering, isn't it? That quarter midget class which you run, and I think you're the president of, has really grown its numbers, and some of those meetings we had just recently with 19, almost 20 cars competing, it was really impressive on the track. TQs are racing, Louise. Just remind us, how many can we expect at the track on Saturday?
So we're looking at about 20 TQs for this weekend, and I also believe that they're running their best pairs event this weekend too, which should be really interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, some good tight racing in the TQs. AJ, modified sprints, they'll be back at the track. What can we expect?
Oh, Craig Cox is going to come out all guns blazing. Harry McIntyre was super impressive down at Riverside, so let's see how that all starts waging, and of course Liam Astle as well. If he's there, it's really going to be something else.
And the V6 wingless sprints will be filling the last class at the track, and they've certainly got some good racing going on there. Well, look, folks, time to give away the free ticket to our April 1st meeting. And of course, this was provided by Sliding Around Speedway New Zealand, that new Facebook page that kicked themselves off a few weeks ago. And that's Tara Glover running the show there. And she's made a draw. Wayne Hawker, you are the winner of the double pass. And what you need to do, Wayne, is turn up at the public entrance on Saturday, and we'll make sure there's a double pass there for you and your partner to go along to the race meeting. Well, look, folks, that's the end of the show tonight, and we're all looking forward to April 1st, which is the next meeting at Ruapuna Speedway. But until then, keep your foot up it.